Hey, how are you?
Tim, you're already busy. You just released like 5 minutes ago and on Brando video. You're burning the midnight oil as you do each and every week, my friend.
It's what I do.
And we thank you so much for that. Although I told you, before you came on, I was like, we gave you last time you came on, we kind of gave you some crap. You're wearing a Kansas shirt, you're supporting your good friend Lance Leipold.
Hang
All of a
on.
sudden,
Hang on.
oh, well, see, this is what happens here, guys, on the Starcade Sports Podcast. Tim is going to put the shirt on. He's got the helmet. Okay. Well,
The helmet.
the helmet, and it's much
The helmet.
deserved. Eating a little crow here, Tim. We are, and so
The helmet.
we take back everything we said last time, as Lance Leipold has completely turned this program around in short order, and just want to get your thoughts on that.
Well, he's a hell of a coach and has a very unique approach to how to build a program for college. But it is a professional approach. He views what he's doing at Kansas very much like a Bill Belichick would with an organization like the New England Patriots. He has a head of personnel. He has a head of just about every facet of the game. He empowers and delegates to the people that have surrounded him since his days at Wisconsin Whitewater. This is so good for the game because for years there were people that always looked down their noses and scoffed at the lower levels of college football, Division three, Division two, even FCS levels. People would say, "Yeah, but how's he going to do with elite athletes at the Division one level, or the guys that were 3 stars and 4 stars and all that?" People poking holes in the notion that just because you won a gazillion games and a bunch of national titles at the Division three level, that doesn't translate. Well, Craig Bowles kind of done the same thing at North Dakota State. You see what, he's been very successful since going to Wyoming. He's just a little bit further along in his career. Lance is a little bit younger, but when he was going up against Karos at Mount Union, those games between Wisconsin Whitewater and Mount Union were just, if you watched them, and I did, you were impressed. You had to be impressed. Those were the two dominant programs. They were on a collision course for the D3 title every year.
Yep.
And most of the time, well, it was pretty split, really. It depended on who made the most mistakes in the game. They were so evenly matched. But he goes to Buffalo, and eyebrows were raised immediately. Danny White, who's now the athletic director at Tennessee, the son of Kevin White and the brother of Michael White, basketball coach at Florida. Kevin, of course, was the athletic director at Notre Dame. He was an athletic director at Arizona State, and most recently at Duke before he retired. They saw something in this guy, and they brought him into Buffalo. He immediately turned them around, and Kansas hit an absolute wall really before they hired Les Miles. And then that turned into, a dumpster fire, the likes of which none of us expected. I certainly didn't. And I knew Les for years. So you couldn't have asked for a more difficult situation to inherit than this one. Okay. It was like, okay, Lance, here's a Power 5 job. It is by far and away the worst Power 5 job in America. So let's see what you can do, right? And he's answered that bell, and last year we had his team just get buried by Oklahoma State. I mean, it wasn't close. They were absolutely hammered in that game. But Oklahoma State was really good. They had Jim Knowles now at Ohio State as their DC. Gundy changed his approach to the game completely. They were a defensive-oriented team. And those poor kids from Kansas just had no shot. The quarterback was, he was taking lick after lick after lick. He was being blitzed on every down. That kid has now become a star, and they've persevered through it. I remember talking to Coach Leipold after that game, and I'm not going to lie to you. He's one of those guys in the profession that I'm friendly with, that from time to time I'll share texts with during the course of the season. And I texted him the next day. He says, he said, Tim, there are brighter days ahead. Something good's going to happen really soon. Well, I think it might have been a week, maybe 2 weeks later, the Texas win.
Yeah.
With that tight end making the catch. And that game meant so much to them. And for they've been waiting for a moment like that. And you see what happened. It's not just a big win that's lost. He's been able to sustain some success since that victory. And I just think it's wonderful. And it shows you in college football the differences that can be made when you have true leadership, someone who's true to himself, to the people that are around him. He surrounds himself with people that he knows that have been with him forever.
Yeah.
And they follow him. Okay. Usually you think younger coaches, hey, coach, my wife really likes it here. I got an opportunity here. I think I'm going to go someplace. That never happens with him. Okay. That staff is intact. And they've followed him all the way from Wisconsin Whitewater through the different levels of moving up, and I'm just, he personifies, in my estimation, why the college game is so great and why I'm always out there telling people that, let's stop just looking down our noses at the so-called little guy, and let's see how they fare when they get opportunities against the big teams. But now what's happened, Clint, is the media has decided, okay, our business has decided, to hell with them. We really don't want to learn about them. We'll just diss everybody that Kansas beats. Okay. The same thing happens with Texas Tech or other teams like that when they beat a Texas. It's what's wrong with Texas. It's not what's right with Texas Tech. And so that's a problem we have in our, I think, in college football. I think it's a problem we have in our country. We are a mirror image, I think, of the issues that face college football are a mirror image, really, of the societal issues that we have today. And he cracks through that. He cracks the code on that. And so what if Nick Saban does it his way? I got news. Nick Saban would never take the Kansas job, ever. He wouldn't take the job Bill Snyder took at Kansas State, ever. He was going to go someplace where he knew he had a great chance to win a national championship, where there are the infrastructure is such that it's going to be easy to get the personnel. Now, to sustain the success is incredible. He's the best that's ever coached the game. I'm not begrudging Coach Saban that, all right? But I'm saying there are other great coaches out there that do it their way, and we need them, because if we don't have them, then we don't have the kind of excitement and the kind of balance and the kind of fun that college football delivers on Saturdays that you just don't get on Sundays,
Yeah, for sure. And speaking of some other kind of outlier programs, at least when it comes to the college football playoff, we got NC State. They've got a big battle at Clemson this weekend, Washington with Michael Penix Jr., Ole Miss with Jackson Dart. Do you think any of those schools are ready to make a run at this college football playoff?
Ole Miss is an incredible, they're a very intriguing team. I mean, Lane just bemoaned how he was having to assemble his team through the transfer portal. I guess we got free agency going on. He was deadpanning the whole summer. Okay, about this is what we're dealing with. He took some shots at Jimbo, kind of stoked that fire, to help Saban and Jimbo go at it. All the while, though, he collected probably the greatest ensemble of transfers from the portal to put his team in a position to just pick up where they left off.
Yeah.
And I think it speaks to his genius to some extent. I saw Jackson Dart in a very meaningless game at Cal between USC and California that had to be rescheduled because of COVID on the same day the conference championship games are being played.
That's right.
Spencer and I said,
yeah,
well, we were the final game of the night. It was late on Pac-12 after dark, really late. Unless you had money on this game, you were not watching.
I probably did.
But as I told my crew, I said, hey, but it's another unit. We're working. There's only about 4 or 5 units in college football working. We're working. I've done some title games in my day, but by God, this is important for both teams.
Exactly.
But Dart was impressive in that game, even though USC sucked as a team.
Yeah.
Cal won the game going away. And they're not bad, but USC was just awful. They probably only had about 43, 44 guys dressed, and you could tell they were mailing it in and just waiting on Riley, to get there. But Dart was impressive to me. And what quarterback wouldn't want to play for Lane? What really good quarterback who wants to have a future wouldn't want to play for Lane Kiffin?
Sure.
So I think that's not only are they the most intriguing team, I think that's the most intriguing matchup of the weekend, the one between Ole Miss and Kentucky, because I personally believe Kentucky is the third best team in the conference right now. I think their defense is outstanding. I think Will Levis is athletic, and I don't know from a firepower. This is going to test their firepower, okay? Because I think at Ole Miss they're going to have to score a lot of points to win, even though their defense is good. Lane's play calling will be an equalizer there. Ole Miss is going to get in the end zone. They'll use formation, and they'll find a way to turn the game into an offensive fireworks matchup. So that's a very interesting. I'm thinking. What was the other game you asked me about besides that one?
NC State at Clemson.
Oh yeah, I had that game tagged back in the summer. NC State, in my opinion, is going to win that game. Their defense is really good. Their quarterback is going to play on Sundays. Doran's been there for 10 years, and this is the perfect storm, really. Clemson had to really work hard to win that game at Wake, and I felt Wake outplayed them. And I'm probably, you can't watch that game if you're NC State and not see the cracks in the Clemson defense.
Yeah.
Okay. So the Clemson defense was supposed to be the difference maker in their season. Okay. You can say what you want about the problems with the quarterback, and it's not developed. They don't have, it's not the way it used to be. It's not Trevor. It's not Deshaun. It just is. But, look, they had to score to stay in that game and send it to overtime.
Sure.
Their defense got gouged. I mean, they got gashed in the passing game. Now, Hartman's a great player. But the NC State quarterback, in my opinion, is his equal.
Yeah.
So I like North Carolina State to win this game. The three teams I was bullish on in the summer before getting the season underway were Baylor, and they had an unfortunate opening loss at BYU week 1. Things happen. Okay, I still think Baylor can win every game they got left. And Utah, tough loss to open at the Swamp. And Utah, I think, is going to right the ship and probably run through the Pac-12. I really believe that. Okay, first week things happen. Okay, but the other team was NC State. I thought I had them preseason top 10, and I think I ranked them 7th in the preseason, and I had them ahead of Clemson. I didn't have Clemson in my top 10, and that was the reason. I thought from a scheduling standpoint, having to play an emotional game at Wake, and I knew it would really, you're catching Clemson at a time when they go, and here comes NC State in there. No one's giving them any credit, and I think they can do the damage this weekend. So, yeah, those are the two. You're really good. That's tremendous insight. I would say those are the two most intriguing games to me this week.
Well, we talked about not scoffing our noses down at lesser programs, Tim. We're going to do that just for a little bit, but that's because the team we cover here in the state of Missouri sort of deserves that a little bit after one of the most brutal losses we've ever seen here. And Missouri has a laundry list of them, Tim, in this game at Auburn. Yeah. Where is this Missouri program at right now? I know you haven't seen them live here in a few years, probably since back to maybe a Purdue game a few years ago.
The man, era, really, and I saw them a lot back then. But I like Drinkwitz a lot. I do, but I think that at a certain point, as captivating and as charismatic as he is, he's going to have to find a way to appear, at least, to be installing greater discipline in his team. Okay, they're making mistakes that you can't make. They gift wrapped that game to Auburn.
Yes,
that's a win. that's a win against a program that's about to, lose its coach again. And they just extended a life support, to Brian Harsin. But honestly, I think that it just comes back down to being buttoned up in certain areas, and he's going to have to find a way to get that done in season. That's not an easy fix. It's a little bit like I'm an avid golfer, as and sometimes your swing, you feel like that swing is good, but something's terribly wrong with it, and somebody usually has to point it out. It might be just moving your shoulders a little bit this way or a little bit that way. It might be with your lower body that you're maybe a little bit too closed. You need to open your stance a little bit. It could be just a minor tweak to help you get things buttoned up. I think that may be what's going on at Mizzou right now. That I don't think it's a systemic problem within the program. I don't. I just think that the SEC exposes you so quickly when there is an issue, and right now that seems to be a lack of discipline. And when I say that, I don't mean off the field. I mean being buttoned up and handling your technique and your fundamentals in the game the way you should. You can't be dropping the ball like that. You just can't.
No, you can't.
I feel your pain, Clint.
Yes.
Oh, Tim.
Well, Tim, we'd be remiss, Louisiana guy, if we didn't ask you about LSU. Kind of your thoughts on Brian Kelly there, the loss to Florida State, and do you think that's the answer for the long haul with them and Brian Kelly?
Oh yeah, and they were throwing dirt all over him, boy, after week one.
Mm-hmm.
And look, it's week one. The overreaction to week one, all across the board in college football. I mean, we can say it every year; it doesn't stop. It does. I mean, the overreaction is off the charts. And after week two, if you lose that, oh my God, you're 0-2. The season's lost. LSU, I think, will beat Tennessee. I propped up Tennessee into my top 10 last week. Hendon Hooker is a great quarterback, and I think that you got to give Josh Heupel a lot of credit.
Yes.
A lot of credit. You guys know the job he did at Mizzou.
Yes.
With Locke and those guys. In fact, that was the last time I think I had Missouri, was a game at West Virginia to open the season in maybe 2015.
16, I think. Yeah. Opening game of 16.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was the last time I had a Missouri game, and it was on Fox. But Josh has done a remarkable job at Tennessee, and his defense is actually making plays too now. But I think that they're going into Death Valley at just the wrong time. Now, those fans are pissed down in Baton Rouge. Imagine that. The game's being played at 11 a.m. local time.
Yeah.
So I can only tell you, I used to do those Raycom Jefferson Pilot SEC in the mid-'90s. Hell, I'm from Louisiana. Got my career jettisoned from LSU, in the early 80s to ESPN. And my friends that I worked with were like, Tim, you're going back home. And I come in there, hey, Brando, you suck. We're doing, you being here means the game's at 11:30. This is unbelievable. Get the hell out of here, Brando. We hate you. I was like, all right. Can't you just start drinking at midnight and then just stay drunk until 11 a.m.?
That's the plan.
So that should be the plan. But they're wired a certain way, and they are really pissed. And it just worked out that way. This is one of those weeks when CBS does a doubleheader. I used to be in the middle of this.
Yeah.
And in fact, I did the doubleheader games when Vern and Gary were doing, a feature game at 3:30. And usually it was before the Alabama LSU game.
Mm-hmm.
That was the feature game. Okay. Then the next game of the century, we'd be doing, I don't know, Ole Miss at Georgia, Georgia at Vandy, some second game on CBS. Well, this is one of those weeks when they have two. And I guess they passed on that game. And then ESPN was in a pickle about what they were going to do. And you know what you want to do? You want to put the higher ranked teams, the games that you think that they'll get the bigger number in the evening. And that's what they chose to do at ESPN. And all those fans are just going. I mean, they're jumping off the bridge. They've been looking for reasons to be pissed, and this is another one. But I think the players have proven, though. They've played early games in Baton Rouge, and they've won. So I think it's an issue for fans. I don't think it's an issue for the team or the coaches. I just think LSU now, Brian has a really good system. We talked about being buttoned up and disciplined. That's his strength. He has brought in a culture there that's like, forget the noise, just go about your jobs, do it the right way. He knows that most of the players that he has at LSU believe they're going to be playing beyond college.
Sure.
And so it's all about preparation to be in the business of football. And it's a strictly business approach that they're having to get used to. And that's really what they needed post Orgeron. I mean, that's why I thought the hire was such a good hire. The problem Tennessee's going to have, I think, is they're getting out of their state for the first time. This is like, Hooker's 24 years old. He's been there, done that. I know that. And he is the most talented player on the field when he's out there. But I just think LSU will have a little something for him to get them off kilter, and they'll find a way to win. I think it'll be a very entertaining game. I think LSU will have to score more than they have so far. I think their offense will have to come of age, but I like their quarterback too. I think he's evolving.
Yeah.
Okay. And Daniels, I saw him as a freshman going to Michigan State and win when he was at Arizona State. So I like LSU in that game to upset Tennessee. I put Tennessee there, Clint, because I thought they had earned it. But
they have.
They've earned it. But I think that honestly, LSU is in a position now to make it splash, and this is going to be that splash. The other factor in why I like LSU is Tennessee's got Alabama next. Okay. Yeah. And these players at programs like that, where the fans are saying, we're back. Okay. Maybe you aren't. You gotta sustain that full cup of success mentally going against a team like LSU. If you get caught looking ahead to Alabama, okay, in that traditional rivalry game that used to be the third Saturday of October, and now it's going to be the second Saturday, you're going to get whipped. And that's why I like LSU.
And it was a better Creole accent than Brian Kelly has there, Tim. You should be. You're from there. Program we got to ask you about here.
Brando, I can't stand you. You come in here, it means if we're going to be playing before high noon.
It's going to get better.
Out of here, Brando.
You need to spend some time with Brian. The accent will get better. You just got to spend some time around the people,
Yeah.
That's one thing Coach O had. So
he's all right. Hey, Brian's doing fine. He and his family are doing fine.
That's right. Well, Tim, you took some flack, week 1 out of the gate, week 0 out of the gate in Dublin, Ireland, the college football mecca of Dublin, Ireland. Nebraska loses to Northwestern. The Scott Frost era comes to an end. You're taking flack all over Twitter. You predicted a national title for Frost. It didn't happen. So 2 names. I'm just going to throw these 2 at you. We talked about Lance Leipold. There's one. Chris Kleiman, the other. You take it from there.
Oh my God. And they had a hiccup against Tulane. Okay. And by the way, Willie Fritz is a hell of a coach. Tulane's got a good team. College football. I mean, there's some teams in the group of 5 that are good, and they put on their jockstrap just like everybody else. They're on scholarship, so they must be good. But then they go into Norman right after that. And remember, this is again, Kansas State is a program. He's really managing K-State with the history of Snyder, but with his own persona taking it over. Okay. And no one's gone into Norman and won more often in the Big 12 than
certainly.
Kansas State. They did it to him in 2020.
3 out of 4.
3 out of the last 4. And they came back, only lost, about 6 at home last year when they got behind Oklahoma. So they were very confident going into that game. The notion, and that's why I only dropped Oklahoma down to 10. The AP poll dropped them to 18. Like, Kansas State sucks. That's a bad loss. No, it's not. K-State's good. Yeah. And their coach is great. He's on every short list. I mean, he and Leipold both are on every short list that an athletic director has for hiring a coach. Kleiman is a guy that just, again, coaches the way, in many ways, Snyder did, but he's a little more innovative offensively, which enables them to outscore you from time to time. And I think we all have to just tip our caps to Martinez, right? I mean, Adrian Martinez has answered every critic, and I was one of the harshest. Okay. I thought he got way too long a leash from Scott. That was one of Frost's biggest mistakes, was staying with that kid as long as he went with him. Now I think we understand maybe why he stayed with him. The address change really helped this young man. The portal was very kind to him. And they're a dangerous team from this point forward. No question about that. As for what I said about Scott, I'll give you some context again. Spencer and I were there to do his first game. Prodigal son returns. It's the opening weekend, 2018. They're playing Akron. My buddy Terry Bowden, now at ULM at my alma mater, was coaching Akron. And the place was ready to explode. And we talked at great length with Scott. I knew him as a player. I knew him as an assistant coach at Oregon with Chip and with Mark Helfrich. They played for the national title in 2014. He was the play caller. And I was, I was really high on the guy. But I wasn't alone. There were a lot of other people that felt similarly. But yeah, I was fired up for the guy, and his mentality, his approach was measured. He sort of was to me, an offensive version of what Saban was. So I made that comparison. But it's funny. The statement that I made in an interview with Paul Feinbaum, which lit up freezing cold takes and was repeated over and over, probably the most repeated freezing cold take in college football history.
It's a good honor.
I was asked the question. Okay, the question was, what do you think of Scott Frost, short and long term? So I said it, and I believed it. It's not like I just went out on my own on Twitter and made this pronouncement. I was asked the question, and I delivered an answer that I believed in. And I will always say what I believe, and I absolutely believed it. People say, how can you be that wrong? Well, because I talk a lot about college football. And if I'm being asked a lot of questions and I get the majority of them right, then that's okay. But if I miss on a few, and some of them are going to be big, I'll be reminded of it. God knows I was reminded of it. I embraced it as best I could. But it does get tiresome. I'm fatigued by it sometimes. But you have to live with what you say in this business. I guess the point that maybe I should take from it is people really do care what my opinion is. And
very true.
Regardless of how wrong I was there, I can live with that. I can, and maybe I took some heat off Bino Cook up in heaven over his Rob Collis will win 3 Heisman trophies at Notre Dame. So maybe I took some heat off Bino upstairs.
I sure hope. Poor Bino.
Yeah, I mean, Tim,
Bino was still the wisest college football mind I was ever around. He couldn't have been more wrong there, but he was still the smartest mind of college football in its history of anyone I was ever around. And I was blessed to be with him those years. Yeah, doing game day. I was.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Tim, we've talked to you about the playoff privilege programs and the usual suspects in the playoff.
That's just pure playoff privileged. Yes,
that. But with the expansion to 12 teams, just real quick, is this the opportunity the smaller name programs have been looking for? Is this going to be a case of the more things change, the more they stay the same, and they'll find another way to keep them out?
No, I do think that a couple of things. All right. Number one, the fact that it's already been announced that they're going to go to 12 at the latest 2026. I think it'll probably happen before that, maybe by 25, probably. But the fact that they've already announced 12, generally speaking, college leaders don't do that. The governance of college football is usually so slow and stuck in the mud. I think they threw out that 12 number just to get us ready for 16. I think that by the time we get to that date, that's a long time between now and 25.
Yeah.
And I think that what they're going to learn as they're negotiating a new television contract with multiple partners. Okay, this won't be just an ESPN deal. I think even they know that. It's going to be a multiple network contract, which is also, I think, very good for the game. I think what you're going to find is the TV people are going to tell college football, well, if you want X number of dollars, okay, you're going to have to give us greater inventory. And they can actually use how pathetic the 14 playoff has been to their advantage. Okay, they can say, other than the Rose Bowl between Oklahoma and Georgia, all right, that semifinal game, these semifinal games sucked. Okay, They weren't very good. They didn't rate very well. All right. So if you're not going to give us teams 1, 2, 3, and 4 in the first week of the playoff, that I don't know how valuable this is. So if you give us teams 1, 2, 3, and 4 and put them at home for the opening round, and 1 plays 16, 2 plays 15, 3 plays 14, 4 plays 13, now we're talking.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Now we're talking. And that gives us 4 more games to work with in that inventory. And we can get that money way up there where you want it. Okay. The way it would stand with 12 is that the top 4 would play the following week. They would get a bye. And the first round would be at home with 5 playing 12, 6 playing 11, at the home sites of the lower seeds, or higher seeds, I should say. But the bottom line is that extra game for everybody would just mean more inventory for more networks, and they could make that much more money. That's what I believe is going to wind up happening. And the greatest part about this is when we have 12 or 16, if we're going to have more games in November involving teams trying to get in, more games where, if number, for argument's sake, Heartland Trophy game, between Wisconsin and Iowa, generally is 2 ranked teams, or maybe Minnesota playing Wisconsin, as was the case last year for the Western Division of the Big Ten. Spencer and I did that game Thanksgiving weekend. Think about what would be at stake and how many more people would be watching college football if those teams had a chance to get in the top 12 or the top 16. It's just going to make November so much more valued to the viewer, more reasons to watch more teams. And it'll force college football media to follow more than 4 damn teams. Okay, we if you turn on television every day, okay, this is why shows like yours streaming and Jay Crane's that streams, Crane and Company, these shows that are on websites now are so big because cable television is totally ignoring college football during the week. I mean, it's the second most popular sport in America. And if you turn on any of those shows, whether it's FS1 or ESPN, they're talking about the same crap. NBA this, social justice that, LeBron this, Lakers that, NFL, anything NFL, okay, all day long. Kaepernick will come up again, right? There's no college football conversation on mainstream cable television during the week. And yet on Saturdays, we're filled with college football. Okay, they should be promoting all that they've got coming up on Saturday. There's some isolated shows like College Football Live that they do very quickly and cheaply, and here's your 30 minutes and move on. FS1's not doing anything on a regular basis with college football.
It's a crime.
I don't get it. I just don't get it. But that's part of the issue. The other part of the issue is the media in general. Okay, the print media is guilty of this too. They want to talk about and write about players and teams that are going to be in the 14 playoffs, and they really don't want to delve into. I mean, there are isolated examples of otherwise. The guys that write for the Athletic do a nice job. The guys that but you got to pay for that. Okay,
sure.
We're talking about
paywall.
If you're an avid college football fan, you have to pay to find the articles and the things that you want to watch about. And that's mainstream media is just doing a crap job of covering today's college football. We got 130 teams playing at the Division I level, and by and large, the national narrative is there's only 4 or 5, maybe 6, 7 teams worth talking about. And that's about it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we really don't know, and we don't care.
Well, Tim, the time has run short here. We always appreciate it. The Zoom's going to cut us off here in just a couple minutes, but you're heading to Austin this weekend, West Virginia, Texas. It's always a good day spent in Austin, Texas, one of my favorite towns in America. You and Spencer Tillman on the call, 6:30 on Fox. Can't wait to see how that goes, and I just hope you have a great trip down there, man.
Yeah, looking forward to it, and we'll find out where we're going to be next week soon. We're on a 6-day wait. Not sure whether we'll be in Stillwater or Los Angeles. We'll find out and on Monday. But thanks for having me on again, guys, and it's always a pleasure. And good luck to your Tigers. Good things. The gods owe you. Okay.
Thank you for that.
They've owed them for what, 2 decades now? So
probably
probably since the 5th down. That's 32 years ago, guys. Not that anyone's counting.
Just remember, the Jayhawks had hope. So do you.
I'm going to give it up to you, Tim. You've earned it, and Lance Leipold and those Jayhawks have earned it. Thank you so much, my friend.
Always an honor, Tim. Thank you.
Take care.